And one of the things that Donald Trump has been strongest on, he keeps saying, man, we're going to pump more money into the Pentagon. We're going to rebuild the military. And then at the same time, he turns around and says, yeah, but these guys are cheating us on Air Force One. Boeing is cheating us on Air Force One, and Lockheed is cheating us on the F-35. We're trying to make sense out of all of this. Marcus, let's hope that you can do so. So first of all, what is the status of the Pentagon budget today? Has Obama really cut the defense budget back significantly?
Well, yes, Obama and Congress have cut the Pentagon spending from projected levels that they had 6, 7, 8 years ago. It has been on an upward trajectory since pretty much 2014. It's been going up, and this is all limited by the Budget Control Act and sometimes called sequestration. But defense spending has been going up. The problem Donald Trump has, he keeps talking about increasing defense spending. The law, the budget caps that limit Pentagon spending, are in place until 2021. So sequestration. Right. And these caps, as long as they're in place, there are ways of going around and backdooring it. They could use. There's the war budget. It's called OCO, which stands for Overseas Contingency Operations. That's not capped. And actually, in this past budget, this National Defense Authorization, the Defense Policy Bill that was just passed a couple weeks ago, that actually increases spending through this OCO special slush fund account is what a lot of people will call it. So he can do it that way, but unless he can come to some sort of big agreement, it'll make it more difficult for him, because there are fiscal hawks conservatives who don't want who see the Budget Control Act as a good thing, and it's actually limiting the deficit.
So it's not going to be as easy to just throw more money at the Pentagon as Donald Trump talks about, right?
No.
But again, I'm trying to get at the basic fact. Is the Pentagon underfunded? Is the military budget in trouble because they don't have enough money these days? I mean, I find that hard to believe.
It has combined about around a $600 billion budget right now. The biggest issue that the Pentagon claims they have right now is readiness. They claim that their forces are not ready to go to all types of war. They're very ready to go when they deploy to Afghanistan. They're very ready when they're the pilots who go and fly these airstrikes against ISIS in Iraq and Syria. They're training for these. But when the Pentagon's saying readiness, they mean a full-out, all-out war against a major power. So they're talking going to war with Russia or China. Or you could even throw Iran,
North Korea in there. They're talking another World War II.
They're talking, a World War III scenario.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they have these commitments in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and they've been doing these operations for 15 plus years now. So they say that they need more money to do in training and just basic training to do these high-end war missions, because all they're really preparing for right now is to go for the Air Force, say for instance, or the Army. They're preparing to go bomb ISIS, or they're preparing to go support troops on the ground. A war against a high-end power like China or Russia is expected to be a lot more complicated than that. Near peer competitor, fighter jets shooting at each other, cyber warfare, etc.
How big is our defense budget compared to other countries on the globe?
It's huge. It's I forget the exact stat, but it's the U.S. budget is bigger than the next 14, 16, 18 countries all combined.
Yeah, so Crimea River, right, when it comes to people in the defense budget who claim they don't have enough money. Well, let's talk about some of the specific targets of Donald Trump. The first one being Air Force One, telling Boeing, no, you're overcharging for that plane and cancel the contract.
So that was a bit surprising when he did that. It was we believe that the transition team got a briefing on the Air Force One project, because it's down the road. It hasn't even started yet, and the insinuation is that it's incredibly the costs are out of control. That there's all this waste there and everything. Boeing has an initial contract to basically design the plane, and they're designing the plane based on the specs that the Air Force gave it. So the projected cost, and he's not wrong. The projected cost for this project is probably $4 billion for 2 planes, which I think a lot of us sit there and say, hey, that's damn expensive for 2 Boeing 747s, which, United will be could be flying just out of Dulles up the road. The problem is or the difference is, these planes are hardened to withstand an electromagnetic pulse and a nuclear attack and fly around with aerial refueling and never have to land, and tons of other basic requirements that no other plane has. They're 2 of the most unique planes in the world.
Communication systems, and we don't have any idea about all the security and defense.
That's the thing. We don't even know
that are built into them.
Well, the current Air Force One, they like to say it has an operating room and all this other whiz bang technology.
Wow.
So the shock was, though, that again, he picked on this project that really hasn't even started yet. So he really threw Boeing a curveball, because they're saying, hey, we're doing what we were told. We're designing stuff. We're not turning wrenches or anything like that. And a lot of observers said, well, why doesn't he go after some of the programs that have a well documented cost overruns, schedule delays? And lo and behold, less than a week later, Monday morning, he goes after the F-35, which is the prime example of a Pentagon program that went off the rails years and years and years ago, and has been better of late. But still, it's a good punching bag.
The F-35. So the status, before we move on there, the status of the Air Force One now is
Boeing has a $170 million contract, which we could also say, wow, that $170 million contract to do the design, to do the design work and figure out, how.
But nothing has happened to that.
You mean it's not $4 billion, as he said?
No, they haven't spent $4 billion yet.
Not.
But like I said, that was the insinuation.
Yeah.
Right. But so Boeing is continuing on that project, and the project has not been abruptly canceled.
No, they're still doing their design work. They got to do engineering work to see when you add the types of things that the Pentagon and the White House, by the way, that the Secret Service require the president to have on the plane. It changes the aerodynamics, and there's a lot of engineering that needs to be done to make sure the thing doesn't fall out of the sky.
Isn't this Air Force One about 20-some years old?
Yeah, these current ones there's 2 of them. They came around in the 90s, early 90s.
And we generally replace Air Force One every 25, 30 years?
That's about right. And tell you what, Bush tried to do this at the end of his presidency. There was a lot of talk back in 2007-ish, 2008, about him launching this, because you have the big thing with Air Force One is a 2-term president has to buy the next one, because you can't look like you're buying a plane for yourself. And even if the current schedule, and that went off, that never came about. There were those defense budget cuts. Anyway, and when Obama came in, he killed the Marine One helicopter program, the new Marine One, which was a program that, again, is one of those that was very, very much off the rails in terms of the cost. But what was the blame to it? The requirements, the parameters that the Secret Service put on and others put on the program just made it unachievable to make something fly with all that stuff on it.
Right.
Just to play devil's avocado for a moment, right? There was a story last week about how the Pentagon buried $125 billion in bureaucratic waste. So is this an issue where Trump, I don't want to give him too much credit here because I'm not sure that he's a real strategist this way, but is there some merit to what he's talking about, or is this a way to sort of combat that, or is this something totally different?
He's trying to go after profits of companies. He's going to pay them what he believes is fair. He doesn't want to see them getting these exorbitant contracts, and if they do get these exorbitant contracts, he wants to see them deliver, which is, you'd think, what the government would always want. They want. Now there are the other factors. There's Congress, and Congress either not killing projects, or underfunding, or overfunding. So you could debate it.
Yeah,
both ways.
Sure.
Right. So generally, defense contractors, how are they feeling about the new administration?
There was this kind of euphoria when he was elected, because he's been talking about rebuilding the military, and if you're going to rebuild the military, you're going to spend a lot of money to buy the military stuff. And there's a lot of talking points that the Air Force has about how they're their service is incredibly old, and the Army that they're too small. And I was out at the Reagan National Defense Forum at the Reagan Library, and it's a kind of this Davos-like gathering of defense officials, and it's all the Joint Chiefs are there, the secretaries all show up, the CEOs of all the big corporations, senators, congressmen, etc. And a lot of folks were kind of, giddy in a way that, oh, hey, it's gonna be happy days are here again. And the big thing that's still looming over them is sequestration and being able to actually
but if
increase spending.
If he's taking on Boeing and Lockheed Martin by name, they must be nervous too.
They're incredibly nervous because in the past you would negotiate contracts in a boardroom in privacy, and these negotiations could go on for months or even years, as a recent F-35 contract had been being negotiated for over a year, and now it's now apparently gonna all happen in the public eye, and you could argue a lot of what he's the way he's going about it. You could really argue it both ways and say, hey, well, he's looking out for the taxpayer. Why does it cost this much money to do these types of things? So if nothing else, he's starting a debate over how these contracts are negotiated.
Oh yeah, and he will not hesitate. We've learned already to call them out by name. All right.